At long last, it's finally time for our final episode of the Best of Next Fest 1023 showcase. It's been a lot of demos, but this is going to be it. The final night, plus the games I kind of played on my own. So this is your last chance to find some really great standout indie games to check out in the future. We are starting things off with a surprise favorite of mine that I played, and that is Cowboy 3030. It is the year 3030, and we have cowboys fighting robotic bandits in the future Old West, Old Future West, whatever. But this is a third-person shooter. You'll choose from different characters that each have their own special abilities and gun. There are unlockables in terms of different guns, but I didn't see a way to equip them, at least in the demo. The gunplay is just okay. This is one of those games where when you're firing your gun, your character does slow down a little bit, which does make it a little bit awkward in terms of trying to time dodging and avoiding attacks. Enemies will attack you with two different kinds of bullets. You have red ones which you can dodge through, and blue ones which you must actively avoid. As the game goes on, you'll fight bosses that tend to get into like bullet hell or bullet hell adjacent style patterns. Now, the interesting aspect of this one is what happens when you level up. You see, when you level up, you'll be able to choose from different perks on a massive perk tree. But the thing is that your perks, either the tree itself is randomly generated, or your position on it is randomly placed when you start a new game. So this means that you won't know which perks you'll have access to or which ones you want to get on any given run. There's basic ones that give you more health, more damage, and that kind of thing, and those that will change the properties of your specials and your guns and so on. Now, I don't know if there is any major persistent elements besides unlocks. The game does have two-player co-op, which obviously I couldn't check out during this demo. But this one is looking like it could be a very solid third-person shooter-like, or roguelike. So if you enjoy the likes of Gunfire Reborn, and looking for one that's a little bit more Western themed, I would highly recommend checking out this one. We now have Acres, a strategy farming simulator style game. Your mission is to keep your farm growing and sustainable while meeting the demands of various customers. You have quite the freedom in terms of which crops you can build, upgrades that you can get, new tractors, buy more land, and so on. The challenge is that the orders that you get are randomly chosen. You won't know what you're going to get until they come, and you'll need to manage what upgrades and what crops you are producing in order to meet those needs. You'll also be able to decide how to water and properly kind of hydrate the various crops, changing their properties based on what you give them. It's a little hard to discern. There's a lot of small information, and again, as you can tell by the GUI, it's all over the screen in terms of trying to figure out important information what you should be doing. This one looks like it will be on the challenging side, so if you're someone who likes your farming sims to be a little bit more strategic, rather than just throwing lots and lots of crops down calling it a day, then this one may be worth digging up. We now have Star Leaping Story. In this one, we play a person who is trapped on an alien world. There's a strange, adorable looking creature who's following them around and wanting them to be happy at all costs, and I'm sure there's no negative consequences or darkness going on there. Your platforming here is of a very kind of dash-focused variety. Once you are in the air, you can dash in any cardinal direction up to 5 times before you must land. When you're in the air and dashing, you have no further control over your character. So the platforming here becomes a little bit more on the puzzle variety, kind of puzzle reflex, as you'll need to figure out how to move through the level and when to dash in order to avoid all the hazards and obstacles. If you mess up, you simply return to the previous checkpoint. But this game does look like it's going to get on the challenging side, especially as areas get larger, which means more time between checkpoints. My one issue that I had with it is that once you get to some of the faster speed sections in this game, the camera has a hard time keeping up, and you'll have these situations that by the time the camera has panned to where you need to go, it's already too late to adjust your character or make a boost. But the story was interesting, and it's a very different kind of platforming that I was enjoying. So if you're looking for a not so much technical based platformer, but still a challenging one nonetheless, then I would check this one out. We now turn to Wild Country. This is a self-described cozy deck builder. A city is looking to get a new mayor, and in order to find that person, they're going to have a card game tournament. I guess it's like the cozier version of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City arc. Nevertheless, you play as one of the critters who has signed up for the tournament. You will explore the area, finding friends, completing quests, getting new cards, and having turn-based battles as you see here. The card game itself revolves around you earning more money than your opponent by placing down various buildings categorized by their kind of, structure. So industry, commercial, residential, and so on. Each kind of building will have different relationships to one another. Some buildings will boost a specific kind or lower another one. And your job in terms of deck building is building a deck that synergizes with your style. There are cards that are kind of like those that can interact with your opponent's side. Certain buildings can also level up if you meet certain restrictions or goals while that card is placed down on the board. All the while, your opponent will be trying to do the same. The card game itself, from what I played in the demo, seemed okay. One of my major issues I had with this, however, is that it is very slow to play. There's a numerous amount of delay between when I end my turn, before the enemy plays their turn, before they end their turn, before we get back to mine. And it's definitely going to have to be made a little bit faster if it wants to keep attentions in the retail version. I'm not quite sure how, the card system itself is going to evolve. If there is any rarity in effect, are there cards that are just generally all around better than lower tier ones? It's a little hard to say at the moment. But if you like a single player driven card game, one that again is going to be more about building cities and towns rather than summoning giant dragons or superheroes, then you should at least give this one a shot. And now we turn to Dethroned. This is a roguelike meets kind of auto-battler style game. In a world where a mysterious force has controlled the minds of everyone, you must explore and try to figure out who set it off and stop them. The game itself involves you picking a hero or leader unit. That is the icon you see in the upper left. Each hero comes with different powers that they can activate during combat. Combat itself is entirely hands-off. You'll decide where you'll place your units on the field, and then characters will walk in a straight line across. If they completely pass enemies, they'll just kind of go right past them and you can continue along your way. But you will not gain experience from that. You'll need to collect resources that you can use to level up characters, buy new artifacts, buy access to new characters, and try and complete whatever is your major goal on the map. The game seems to be about very short form matches. This is not going to be like an hour to 2 hour long kind of run. There is persistence in terms of unlocking new features and powers as well. My main complaint I have about this one is that I just do not like the UI for how units are handled. There's this weird rotation thing that you can do, and it just seems very cumbersome. I would rather just have my characters either auto turn to a respective area, or just let me place them on the field and then move them around as need be. Or even just have customizable loadouts you can move them around into. I like what they're doing with having the different characters be unique. There are higher quality units that require command points. These are kind of like the 2+ tile size characters, and they come with their own unique powers, buffs, synergies, and so on. It's still a little too early to tell if there is some greatness here, but there is potential, and they can make things a little bit easier to control and a little bit easier to follow. This could be a great take on auto-battler roguelike design. And if you're in the mood for something like that, then I would definitely check this one out. We now have something for the puzzle fans with Tents and Trees. This is a Picross-like, where you must figure out the exact placement of tents in relation to the trees around them. The rules for this one is that every tent must be surrounded on all sides by grass, and they must be connected next to a tree. From there, of course, things will slowly but surely get progressively more complicated. As the puzzles get larger, the tents get tentier, and you'll need to do some deducing to figure out where everything is going to go. I enjoy this one as a fan of Picross style games, and it does just enough differently that it's not just you playing the same kind of Picross seen in other titles. Again, this is a puzzle-driven game, so if you're looking for a lengthy story, lots and lots of unique challenges, it's not going to be quite that game. But if you're a puzzle fan looking for another one to relax or brain melt to, depending upon how hard it gets, then you should check this one out. We go from a casual to something that is anything but, with the Mangust. You play as this strange-looking creature here, who is traveling between dimensions to stop an evil doctor from, I guess, taking things over or something. It's kind of hard to tell at the moment. But the game itself is 2D side-scrolling Doom Eternal in a very strange way. How this one works is that you have gun and melee. You can equip your gun with various special abilities and powers, but the main thing you're going to do is set enemies up to be finished off with your blade, which when you do that will regain your health. So the challenge of combat is not only moving, dashing, and getting out of the way of enemies and their projectiles, but setting up enemies so that they can act as health recovery when/if, I should say, you need it during combat. Everything is played very fast-paced. The footage you're seeing is played, I believe this was on the highest difficulty, and there is progression in the form of unlocking upgrades to your gun, which in turn will provide with additional benefits, special moves, and so on. This is a game that from the outside, it may not look it, but it is a really solid 2D action game. If you're looking for 2D action that is definitely going to be on the challenging and very fast-paced side, I would give this one a check. And I'm really interested to see where it goes in terms of progression, enemy designs, and so on in the finished version. We now have the action roguelike Aether. In this one, you play as a character who's trying to save kind of our dimension from evil demons and reclaim the power of the elements along the way. In this one, you'll choose from different starting elements: fire, earth, water, and so on. Each kind of group or element has specific spells unique to it. With fire over here, I can, launch giant fireballs, of course, have an AoE blast, and others. You'll be able to upgrade skills, and the store page promotes that you can combine them, which we did not get a chance to see in the demo. As you play, you'll find artifacts or relics which will provide you with unique passives, and eventually, if you collect enough of kind of the permanent or persistent currency, you'll be able to have multiple elements kind of slot to your character at once. There is also talk of having co-op and PvP in the main game, and this one looks like it could be an interesting take. Unfortunately, again, we didn't get to see too much of the advanced elements in terms of how the different skills and elemental powers will kind of proc off of each other, but there could be something here for action roguelike fans. And now up is Craggenrock. This is a blacksmith shop sim style game. You have returned home to be the blacksmith of your village after your master has passed away, And you're on to do all the smithing and trying to keep your business afloat that we have come to expect from the genre. The key aspect of this one is that every kind of tool in your shop has its own kind of skill-based minigame that you'll need to use in order to craft each part of whatever it is you're trying to build. From heating up and getting ore, to wood carvings and shavings, and a lot more. And the game kind of boasts finding different recipes, getting different materials, and again, trying to earn that sweet blacksmith money. My main issue that I have with this one is that the UI is a little hard to follow, at least in the version that we played. It was hard to know kind of like what I should be doing, and I would like to have kept the recipe on some capacity on the screen once you're past the tutorial. This one, it's not quite going to like the same level as some like the 3D blacksmith simulators we've seen, but it's definitely a step up from the likes of games like Racketeer, Moonlighter, and that kind of shop sim. From the store page, I do not believe there is combat in this one, but I can't confirm that. But this one is looking like it could be great for people looking for a new shop sim style game. And at long last, it's finally time for the last game of the showcase series, with Lucky Hero. This is a kind of Luck Be a Landlord meets Slay the Spire like. It is your mission to go out into the kingdom and fight monsters and baddies to save the world using the power of slots and symbols. How this one works is that you'll use your symbol store to buy new symbols that will appear on your slot. Symbols can interact with the characters or with other things on the slots in different ways. So you'll need the energy or lightning bolts in order to power your moves. If you want to enhance a weapon, you could put a whetstone or whetstone lance next to it. You can boost that. If you have like a liquid or poison on your slots and lands next to a bottle, the bottle will kind of scoop it up and get it all for you. And as you play, you'll be able to find new symbols. Enemies can mess with your own symbols or add their own to your board. And your mission is, of course, to keep yourself alive and complete all the challenges therein. It is a very interesting take on the kind of, I guess, deck/slot builder, however we want to define it, kind of design. It does lead to combat feeling a little lengthy, at least at the moment, because you are at, well, the literal mercy of RNG in terms of how the symbols will show up and which ones you'll get when. If you get not enough energy to block or attack during a turn, you're kind of in trouble. And I did have some turns where it just felt like things were being wasted. But there is potential here for people looking for a different take on the kind of roguelike or deck building style design. So definitely check this one out if you want to roll some slots while slaying the bad guys. And thankfully, at long last, we are done with this showcase. I will never play another indie game, at least for another 8 years, I think, after all this. And we'll have more coverage, more design videos, and other things getting back to the channel now. So, thank you to all the indie games we've checked out on the showcase. I'll be happy to play them in their finished releases when they are out. And if you'd like me to play your game for a future stream, a video, showcase, whatever, please get in touch. And with that, I am going to lie down and get some much needed R&R. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.